This is Gemara in Gittin, Daf Samoch Hey, and we're holding on the very bottom of Samach Dalid Amid Beis. And we just finished discussing the case of Shivcha, and we tried to figure out what exactly is this case. If the Shivcha has Shtei Sairos, if she's a Gedaila, then she goes free, she's not by the master anymore. And if she did not bring Shtei Sairos, said the Gemara, then the case must be did not bring Shtei Sairos. Then what does it mean? She's a Zoicha le'acherim, and therefore this was a kasha on Rav Chisda that a katan cannot make a kinyan for someone else. Answer to the Gemara on the second to last line: Shiny shetufei mivuais derabanan. Can't bring me a raya from this case because the whole creation of shufei mivuais is a din derabanan. Let's look at Rashi, 4 lines from the bottom. Samach Dalim and Beis says Rashi, Timidaraisa ein iser lahachlis loitzi. Midaraisa, there's no issue. You don't need a shita from the mavoi. Eller should say yachel or should say rabban. That is only iser midaraisa. These are all isurei derabban. So says the Gemara, you can't ask on Rav Chisda from a din derabban. Amar Rav Chisda on the last line, ishtik vardaon. The Vardan, referring to Rav Chanina, was quiet, and he didn't respond to this kasha. Says the Gemara, "My havale lim evad." He was quiet. What could he have answered? He could have answered a very classical yisoid called the Tikkun Rabbanon, Kein Daraisa Tikkun, meaning very good at the whole din of Shita Mivavais is a din derabanan. But they could have said it's a din derabanan, granted. But derabanans are patterned after daraisas. And therefore, if we find that this is the way that it's going to be a derabanan, that will be a giloi on what the deraisa is as well. Ve'edach, continues the Gemara, and Rav Chisda, how would he respond? Ki amrinan, says Rav Chisda, when do we say that the Rabbanan made a din derabanan similar to the Raisa? Ki amrinan called Tikkun Rabbanan came the Raisa Tikkun is b'milsa de isle ikar min ha'Torah. And each line here is loaded. We're learning klalim in kol ha'Torah kula. When do we say that the Rabbanan are mitakin, they make a gzeira similar to the Raisa? When there's an ikar min ha'Torah, when there's a root, when there's an actual basis min ha'Torah. However, avol milsa the less law ikar min ha'Torah, something that does not have a foundation in the Torah, loi, then we do not have this rule that I called the Tikkun Rabbanan came the Raisa Tikkun. Shetufei mivuais, the Gemara is assuming right now, does not have a precedent in the Torah midaraisa, and therefore that's the reason why the takana was not made kain the daraisa. Masiv Rav Avya asks Rav Avya 5 lines down, Ma'arimin al Meiser Sheni, you're able to circumvent Meiser Sheni, Ketzad. Oimer Adam Lebanai Lebitagidel. A person could say to his children, or Gedalim Lav the Shivchaya Evrim, to his Jewish servants or maid servants, Halachem As Halalu, take these monies, Upadu Ben Meiser Sheni, and utilize them to redeem Meiser Sheni. So he's giving them the money, and he's allowing them to redeem it. Now, what's he going to gain? Look at the top Rashi. What he's going to gain is he can be paideh b'loy chaimish, without adding on a fifth. And Rashi continues teaching us the din that one who redeems his own Meiser Sheni has to add on an extra fifth to the value, whereas if you redeem someone else's Meiser Sheni, you do not have to add on a fifth. So says the Gemara, one could be ma'arimin, one could be cunning and circumvent this additional fifth by giving the money to his elderly children, to his shivcha, who are ivrim, and allowing them to redeem it. So that's ki'ilu, that's at some level like it's a cheirim, therefore there'll be no additional fifth. Says the Gemara, Hi shivcha, says the Gemara, Hi shivcha, hechidami. What is this case of Shivcha? If the case is that the Shivcha brought Beis Sairos, again, this should sound familiar. My guy by Gabe. Why is the Shivcha in the possession of the master? She goes free as soon as she becomes a Gedaila. And this really is a Gemara in Kedushin that we're going to get to, that as soon as she turns 12 and has Shtei Seiros, she goes free. Kedushin on Yudalid. Elolav Tolasi Beis Seiros. Says the Gemara. So if she didn't bring Shtei Seiros, then what? Then she's considered to be part of the Rishus of the master. So whatever she's redeeming this Meiser Sheni is on behalf of the master, so it doesn't work. So explains the Gemara Chamayaskinon. What are we referring to over here? Be'meiser bizman hazeh dirabanan. We're talking about a din of meiser bizman hazeh as a din dirabanan, and since it is a din dirabanan, therefore the katan can redeem it for someone else. So therefore, Rav Chisda stands the test of time. Why does Rav Chisda stand the test of time? Because really, the thread that was being wove into the Gemara's kasha was that if the case was a katan, we see that the katan has the ability to effect a kinyan for someone else, which is the kasha on Rav Chisda. Answers the Gemara just like we answered earlier. No, this is a din d'Rabbanan, and therefore there's no kasha on Rav Chisda from a din d'Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, 1 second. The Mishnah said a case of a yeshivcha or an eved who is an ivri. Is there such a case as an amma avriya bisman hazeh? Ve'atanya, but we learned in our brayso, ein eved ivri noyig el bisman shayovel noyig. So what is going on over here? Answers the Gemara, el ba'atzitz she'enoi nakov dirabanan. So the answers the Gemara, you're right. The person at hand, the shivcha, the eved, they have a din daraisa. But the entity that they're taking meiser off is an entity that only requires to be meisered, to be tith on a darabanan level. What is such a case of a flower pot without holes, which only has a din darabanan to take off meiser? Says the Gemara, wrapping up the previous sugya, Amar Rava Gimel Midais Bekatan. There are 3 ages of a katan. And this should hopefully sound familiar, as we had this not too long ago. Surar vizarkai, egois v'naitlai, what's the halacha? Zoich la'atzmai, v'ena zoich la'acher. If you give him a rack and he throws it away, you give him a nut and he takes it. What's the halacha in such a scenario? Says the Gemara, the halacha is, zeich latzik v'kin for the self in zeich lacher. Ukeneg done in similar, b'ketana miskadeshes. The ketana could get married, limion. The ketana could get married with regards to mion, which is a din d'Rabbanan, that she can walk out of the marriage whenever she wants. Hapu utais, young children. Rashi explains a child from the age of 6 to 8. Rashi says about 15 lines into the narrow lines. The halacha is mecha. Their sales are sales. Mecha. They can sell and buy b'metalton movable items. Connect on and corresponding to them. B'ketana miskareshes b'kedusha aviyah. She get divorced from her father's marriage. Hikia lo'ines nidarim. Once the child reaches the age of nidarim. What is the age of nidarim? This reminds us of that which we learned in nidarim, which is 1 year before the child becomes a naira, 11 years old, of a girl. What's the halacha? Nidreya and neder, the nidarim have a validity. V'aktish and aktish, and similarly they're aktish. Ukenegdan and similar b'ketana. When it comes to ketana, chayletzes, they could do chalitza. They can sell possession of their father, Achu ben Esrim, until they are 20 years old. So this is a little bit of a random, but once we spoke out of the dinim, the different various stages of the katan kitana, the Gemara continues with such a brisa. And now we continue with the Mishnah that says, smack in the middle of Samachay Amar Aleph. Kitana Sha'amra Kitana that says his kabeli giti, except for me a get. Eina get is not a get. Ajia geliyad until she reaches the get to her hands. Lefikach therefore imrata balachzor. If the Baal wants to retract, yachzor, because she's not divorced till she actually gets the get. She'ein katan oiseh shliach, because the katan cannot create a shliach lika bala. Let's say your father said, go and accept a get from my daughter, then the father could create such a shlichus. Hoimer, continues the Mishnah part B. If the husband says, 10 gedish, give this get to my wife, makom plenty in a certain place, and the shliach gives it in a different place, possible is not a good get. But if the father says, doesn't say give it in that place. He says, you can find my wife in a certain place. Then the get is kosher. Part B of the Mishnah. Part C of the Mishnah. Ha'isha sh'amra, a woman that says, Iskaba li giti, except for me, my get makaploini. V'kibla makam acher, it is apostle. But on this case, Rav Eliezer argues and he says it is kosher machshir. Hava li giti makaploini. If a woman says, bring for me a get from a certain place, v'kibla makam acher, then kosher, because there's no kpeda where to pick up the get, would only be potentially where to accept the get. We have a bunch of Mishnayos. Before we get to the next Mishnah, we have a small shtickle Gemara of about 15 lines at the bottom of Samachayim at Aleph. Rav Elazar asks the Gemara, Maishla Reisha Deloi Palik, or Maishla Sefer de Palik. What's the reason in the Sefer when we talk about a Shlich La'oi Lacha? He argues, but in the Reisha, he does not. Says the Gemara, Ihu, when it comes to the husband, the Midaite Megarish, he chooses, his das is what determines if he's Megarish his wife. Kapid, so he could be makbid on any stage of that which he wants. He could even be makbid on delivering the get. But the wife, the Baal Karcha Megarisha, she gets divorced against her will. Mara Makoim, he loy. She's just telling him where the husband would be, but it's not an actual kepeda on the shliach lehoy lacha. Continues the Mishnah. Havaligiti, if a kohen's wife, as Rashi very quickly points out that we're dealing with over here an Eishes Kohen. So if this Eishes Kohen, the wife of Kohen, tells like Shliach, bring for me my get, she's allowed to continue eating Shuma until the get reaches her hand. She's assumed to be a married woman. Hiskabel ligiti. But if she says, except for me a get, then Asur lechel b'Shuma miyad, she cannot eat Shuma right away. But if she says, except for me to get in a specific place, then she could yes eat Shuma until the get reaches that place. Whereas Rav Eliezer says, even in this final case, she's forbidden from eating right away. And Rashi points out, Rav Eliezer is l'taimei, that he says he's a machshei kishay kiblei b'makim acher. He says wherever the get is accepted, it is good. Why? Because it's a mar makim. She's telling him where he can find her husband. Says the Gemara, let's go into the din of the Tanakama. V'gita miyahave. Tanakama said that if a woman tells the shliach, bring for me a get, she's allowed to eat the truma until the get comes to her hands. Says the Gemara, but once she gets the get, it is a good get. Now this really, this is not the first halacha. This is the end of the Mishnah. One more time, let's say this correctly. The end of the Mishnah taught us, Iskabali giti b'makom pleni, then she eats truma, she get lo oisei makom, that's oisei miyad. Says the Gemara, but it is a good get. V'amireisha, but we saw in the beginning of the Mishnah, and over here, when we say Reisha, of course, we mean the previous Mishnah. What is it? Is it showing a specific place, Kpeda or not? Answers the Gemara 4 lines to the bottom. She said to him, she said explicitly, except again a specific place, but sometimes he's elsewhere. And this is what she means to say, Mishkal kolecha the mishkachas. I'll take the get wherever you're going to find him. Shakal minei, take the get from him. So in such a case, Gita lo yahave ad dematis lamasya michasya. Then what she means to say is, I'm makwid that there's not going to be a get, won't be chal until masim mechasya, until you reach that place. But you should take the get wherever you're going to find the husband. We continue on the second line of Samachayim and Beis, quoting the opinion of Rav Eliezer. Said Rav Eliezer that miyad, right away, she's not allowed to eat truma, this isha's kain. Says the Gemara Pshita, Because if Lezer holds that he's not being specific on where the get is taken and given, therefore any moment we have to be chashish for the get. Loi Tzricha explains the Gemara, the Amra Le, she says to the Shliach Zil Mizrach, Ta'aseh b'Mizrach. She says, go to the east, because my husband's in the east. And yet, because Zil Ma'iriv and the Shliach went to the west. Ma'udete ma b'Ma'iriv aleseh. She said east, so she meant not west. Kamash Malan, no, that even the west is included. Why? Dilma b'Hadek, the Kazal Megas Gayis Bay. Because maybe as the agent is going east, the husband met him, the Avalei Gita, and that she's not makbid on. Again, she's just trying to tell the Shliach where the husband might be. Says the Gemara, let's deal with a very similar case with regard to Erev. This is an Erev to extend once to Chom outside the 2,000 Amos of Shabbos. So if someone, as Rashi explains on the fourth narrow line, so it says to the Shliach, make for me an Erev of Tamarim of dates, and he did it of Grugras of figs. Big Grugras, he said, make for me the Erev of figs. V'Erev leibit Tamarim, and the Shliach made the Erev with dates. So we have a machlekes, we have a stira. Tani chada Erev Erev. One brisa says it's a good Erev, another brisa says ein Erev Erev. It is not a good Erev. Oh my Rabba, and Rabba explains 10 lines down. The first one line is a Ruvai. Says Rabba loi kasha ha Rabbanan ha Rabba Lazar. The Brisa says the Erev is possible is Rabba Lazar. The Brisa that says it's kosher is Rabba Lazar, who we know just gives a general mar makayim. Says the Gemara ha Rabbanan damri kbeida. One is Rabbanan that say we're makbid on where it's going to be our Rabba Lazar. Damar mar makamilai. So says the Gemara, that's one way to answer up the stira. Rav Yosef Amar comes along Rav Yosef and he gives another suggestion. Hava Rabbanon, says Rav Yosef, they're both the sheet of the Rabbanon. Kam b'shaloi, kam b'shal chaveiroi. Amalei Abaye asked Abaye 1 second. Tani, that which we learned in the Raisa. Haimer l'shluchai. Someone says the shliach Arav li b'migdal, make for me an erev in the tower of Yivla b'shevach, and he made the erev in the chicken coop b'shevach v'yivla b'migdal. He told him to make it in the shevach, and he made it in the tower. Titanya chada iruvay erev. Tani idach. We learned in another Raisa. Ein eruvay erev. So what are we going to say over here? In this case, there's no way to differentiate between himself and his friend. Says the Gemara, there is. There's two different places, and therefore there are the peiros of each place. We can give the same answer to answer up this stira. We continue with another Mishnah, a third Mishnah on today, and maybe we'll even get in a fourth, depending on where we're holding with timing. So says the Mishnah, halfway down, Samachei Amid Beis. If a husband says, Kisu gevitnu liishti, write again and give it to my wife. Gershua, or the husband says, divorce my wife for me. Kisvu igares, or he says, write it and write a letter and Chinula and give it to her. Hare elu yichtov yitnu. In all these cases, the shliach writes and gives the get. However, Patrua, if the husband said release her, Parnasua, support her, Asalakini, must do for as customary, Aslakarai, do what is normal. Loi Amar Klum, the husband said nothing. So we get involved in the intricate Lashainis, the language is that which the husband could say to potentially create a shlichus for his Gershin. So says the Gemara Tanarabanan, Shelchua Shavkua Tarchua. The husband said any of these Lashainis, Shelchua, send her away, Shavkua, abandon her, Tarchua, banish her. Hareelu, all these Lashainis mean Yechtu v'yetnu, right, and give a get for her. But if he said, Patrua Parnasua, Isla Kanimas, like the end of our Mishnah, then Asla Karai, fourth case, Loya Marklam, that is nothing. So this Brisa just adds on the case of Shalchua Shavkua Tarchua, that is the way the husband is trying to indicate he wants the get to be written and given to his wife. Tanya, we learned in a Brisa about 15 lines from the bottom. First one line is Rabbi Nasan Oimer Patruah Devariv Kayamim. So Rabbi Nasan argues on the end of the Mishnah. The Mishnah and as well the previous Brisa said Patruah is nothing. Releaser does not work. Rabbi Nasan says it does. Pitruah, but if he says Pitruah, then Loy Amar Klum. So what exactly is going on over here between Rabbi Nasan and the Mishnah? Explains the Gemara. Amar Rava, Rav Nosson de Bablo. Rav Nosson came from Bavel. V'dayik bein Petrua lepatrua. So he was medayik in Petrua, which is a Hebrew word, which means I want to be pater from all my debts, from any monetary obligations, and patrua, which is an Aramaic word, which means divorce. So Rav Nosson, he was precise. So he said patrua will work, but Petrua will not. But Tana Didan, our Mishnah is Davar Eretz Yisrael, Loi Dayik, and we don't have such a difference in Petrua and Patrua, and therefore the Mishnah said that in all cases, Loi Asa Klom. And on this note, says the Gemara Yibayu, they asked, Hoitziyu Amau, what if he said take her out? Azvu Amau, what if he said abandon her? Hitiru Amau, what if he said permit her? Henichu Amau, what if he said leave her? Hoyilu Amau, what if he said help her? Asayla Kadas, do what is the halacha ma'u. Says the Gemara Pshait, let's answer up even one. The Tanya learned in a Braisa. Asala kadas, if he says, do for her what is the halacha. Asala kinimos, do for what is normal. Asala karai, do what is proper. Loi amar klum. So different lashonos and how they relate to one creating a shlichus. And let's get one more Mishnah in for the day. Says the Mishnah, and hopefully this should sound familiar, as we had in the beginning of the Masechta. Originally said, someone goes out in chains. Write a gift for my wife. He writes and he gives it. They retracted, said the Rabban, and they said, even one who goes out overseas and leaves on a caravan in the desert for a journey, even in such a case, it has this halacha that what? That they can write and give a get to his wife. Even one who is dangerously ill, we as well could write a get for him, and we'll pick it up from the Gemara, which will discuss these details more intricately.